What's up guys, and welcome to this episode of I Wonder How To. So today I am going to show you how to add a speck of color to your animations from last episode. As you may recall, the animation I have been working on, which I have been demonstrating and will continue to work on today, is the blinking eyes, which looks like this. So as you can see here, there is a blue outline and blue pupil, and there is a reddish color on the irises. So if you make your animation with an easily well calculated shape, such as a box or a circle or whatever, something which you can basically draw with a for loop, or several for loops if you need to. If you can do that with your shape, it's pretty easy to just use that to change the color of certain LEDs. And just add an if case somewhere which states that if these conditions are met, you should use the red color, otherwise use the blue. However, if we're starting to work on more advanced shapes and with more intricate patterns of color, that might be difficult. So this is a way to do this, to add color to such animations without too much of a hassle. So what you have here is the same code as last time with some additions. I've added this class called color and this array called C. So this class right here, it's a class is basically a bundle of values of variables and functions. In this case I only have one function. It is this constructor right here, which takes an R, a G and a B value and assigns them to the member variables. So this is of course the red value, the green value and the blue value. So this class saves, called color, it saves all the colors in the RGB format. So what I do with this is that I create a new array called C, in which I store a number of color elements in which I put certain values. So here I have 0 red, 19 green and 127 blue. And if we scroll to the right, we see that I have 255 red, 0 green and 110 blue. So those are the blue outline and the red pupil respectively. So how do I make this actually show up in the animation? That's where the beauty of this happens. This array right here, C, it has the same length as X coords and Y coords, that is 124. So that means that down here I iterate over X coords and Y coords to find out which pixel should be lit up at all. So while I'm at it, I'm also iterating over C, grabbing the object for each LED, for each coordinate in the X coords and Y coords arrays. And then I grab the red value, the green value, the blue value, and I put them into the CRGB function right here, and that displays as the color I want. So the reason this works is these values in the X coords and Y coords arrays, they do change, but this first value right here with index 0 will always represent the first pixel being drawn. So if that is the pupil, for example, that will always be the pupil of the animation of that certain step of the animation even. The only difference is that it will actually be shifted upwards since we are scrolling the animation upwards 5 steps each iteration. That means that as the pupil will always be blue, I can always keep blue in this value right here, in this element, the first element of the C array. And that goes for all the other pixels as well. So I have one color assigned to each pixel, basically. And I'm iterating over them so that I draw the color of each pixel where that certain pixel is. This means that I can have an individual color for each pixel in the entire animation. If I had a large enough canvas, so to speak, a large enough LED matrix to work on, I could use this technique to draw faces accurately or whatever. So that's how I do that. I have made a few changes also. You may notice that color is not a global variable, and these, the number of LEDs, the animation width and animation height, are now local variables in the effect function. The reason for this is that these are always, well, not always, of course you could have multiple animations with the same setup, but these are local to that particular animation. So by having them locally, I will not have any issues with declaring the same global variable twice, which would suck. Now I don't have to do that because I keep them locally, so there's no fuzz. Also, another thing worth noting, in the class up here, I'm using bytes here. All the values are in bytes. And a byte is the smallest usable piece of data in a computer system. It consists of 8 bits, and while you can manipulate individual bits, it's really nothing you want to do when working with RGB shades, most oftenly. It might have some applications, but if you don't just want to make animations, don't bother. However, these bytes, as they consist of 8 bits, and bits are one binary value, so it can have a 0 or a 1, that means that each byte is 2 to the power of 8 at its largest, if you convert it to decimal, which is 255. So using a byte is enough here, because the largest value we can have on the R or G or B value is 255. So the reason I'm doing this, because you could do that with an integer as well, but the reason I'm doing this is that integers are larger than bytes. Integers are substantially larger than bytes because you can store values higher than 255 in them. I'm not going to swear on any value for these RGB shades, but if you look at any 32-bit system, 32-bit computer, the largest value for any integer is 2 to the power of 32, since an integer is 32 bits long, which is 4 bytes. So I'm using bytes here to lower the amount of memory I need. Simple as that. And I actually did a test run with integers as well, and while it did work, the compiler actually warned me that I was using a lot of memory and that the shades might work in an unstable way because there was so little memory left. So use bytes for this, it will save you a lot of memory. Another thing, when speaking of memory, because we are storing 3 bytes in each color, that means that each color is 3 bytes long. And we only have a total of 2048 bytes, that is 2 kilobytes of memory available for variables on the shades. At least the compiler tells me so. So I'm not going to do the math in my head, but you can see that you can't, for example, use 1,000 different colors, because then you'll use more memory than is available. You'll use 3,000 bytes, which is more than 2,048 bytes. So that means that if you're going to do this technique, keep in mind to have either small things being animated in a lot of steps, or keep few steps in your larger animations. So for example, in my eyes right here, I tried making it with 5 steps. So it was wide open, closed, partially closed, closed, partially closed again, and then wide open. So 5 steps, which were looped over. However, when I added the color, this did not work. The memory was, well, it wasn't enough. So I had to bring it down to just 4 steps in the animation. So that's worth to keep in mind, so that you don't try to make something really large and fancy, and then when you try to compile it, you end up with too little memory and a lot of disappointment. So that's it for this tutorial, and if you have any questions, just throw them at me. I'll be happy to answer. And well, I'll see you next time, and have a good one, guys. Play safe. Bye.